the little bit of consulting that I did with him a few years ago, I learned so much just in that small interaction with him. So while he was paying me for the consulting, I was getting paid to learn.
So, failed accountant, 24 years of age. That's when I started losing my hair because I thought it was game over. I'll never get married. Nobody will love me. My parents will never accept me, etc., etc. Guess what? All of those things happened. I had to reinvent myself 3, 4, 5 times in my life, literally from scratch. Ladies and gentlemen, the ladder is broken. The bridge has collapsed. We have to think differently. So this entire learning and development exercise that you're doing with Sidz is building that ladder. He is building that bridge for you. You know, Richard Branson used to say this thing that if you really are passionate about something and you would love to do it, you know, jump out of the plane first and make the parachute on the way down.
So how many of you here are really excited to know where the world is going to be in 2030, 2040, 2050? And see, there are many people who talk about the future. There are a lot of people who are doing this, but the person who's going to come on today, he's somebody who's been in this game for a very long time and who comes from a very credible background and experience. Like, just to give you a quick idea, the person who's coming on is he's a Harvard alumni, Harvard Business School. He used to be in leadership positions in Dow Jones, in the Times, Sunday Times, and Bloomberg Media Middle East. And another thing about him is he's now known as the voice of the future. He has given over 350 keynotes, over 1,500 interviews. He has conducted over 300 plus summits. He's a global speaker, a corporate CEO, entrepreneur, and he is, more than anything else, he's a humanitarian who's able to connect all the dots. So without much further ado, let's all bring on the one and only TARIQ QUREISHY. TARIQ, great to have you here. So TARIQ, thank you so much for what you do and the kind of impact that you've been able to create in the business world, in the world of startups. I know you've been doing a lot of work over there. So we are very excited to have you on behalf of the community, and from my side, I want to share my heartfelt wishes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the amazing work that you do, and looking forward to learning more from you over here. So just for the audience over here, because many of them may be experiencing you for the first time, if you could quickly give us like a snapshot on your background and what got you into this topic of being the voice of the future and futurism as a concept. Over to you.
Thank you, Sidz. Thank you to all of the people who are there, who are attending. I was very humbled and touched by Sid's introduction. It was quite incredible. Actually, Sidz is my coach and my guru. It's not the other way around. So I have to get that one right, the right way around. We are lifelong learners, and this is something that a lot of you have understood. I haven't reinvented myself at least 4 or 5 times in my life. And that is something I'm going to be discussing today. He introduced me as a Harvard alum, which I am. But when I went, my parents were born in Aligarh and Lucknow. So I have very close connections. I still have a lot of family in India. I'm now based in Dubai. And so people from our kind of background, we have to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. And if you're not 20, 30 years ago, then basically you haven't arrived. So my parents couldn't afford to send me. I got into Oxford University in the UK, and they said, sorry, beta, we cannot do this for you. Why don't you go and become an accountant? And I am not a bean counter. I am not a good accountant. And that's the only major exam that I failed in my life was my chartered accountancy. I'm starting with that because I want to share my vulnerability. Yes, we've achieved so much in life, but I think it's really important to be human and vulnerable and authentic with you right from the word go. And in my failure and in my struggles is where I learned the most. I have learned a lot from universities and business schools and everything else, but I learned mostly from when I was really struggling. And the kind of background that I came from, I ended up working in little bars and sleazy bars in London and driving a taxi and doing all sorts of things. And what it taught me was humility. What it taught me was connection. What it taught me was never to judge. And that has helped me a lot throughout my life. So as I have achieved many things throughout my, as Sid kindly mentioned, I never let go of my base. I never let go of my humility. And the fundamental of sharing, caring, participation, and giving back has been the core. So not only am I a futurist, but I'm also a humanist. And I really, this is how I describe myself, a futurist humanist. Now, in terms of business, I have 25 years of top leadership positions. I was head of Dow Jones for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, ran a $1 billion company, over 1,000 people across 30 countries. Then the head of the Times and Sunday Times newspaper. I was the publisher and CEO, and then the head of Bloomberg Media for the region. So these are my my achievements on that side. But then, like a lot of you, I hit that point in my life where I said, hang on, I'm building stuff for other people. And I keep doing that again and again. And, what is in it for me at the end? What's the legacy that I'm building? So I helped set up a social enterprise. I opened my own podcast platform. That's where Sid and I did a little bit of work together. And now it's morphed into a much wider platform, which the media part of that is called Voice of the Future, and the coaching, consulting, advisory part of it is called Exponential. And that is where I am, Sid. This is sort of the journey. I think the key thing I wanted to mention to a lot of people, because I think it will resonate with them, that I had to reinvent myself 3, 4, 5 times in my life, literally from scratch. So failed accountant, 24 years of age, that's when I started losing my hair because I thought it was game over. I'll never get married. Nobody will love me. My parents will never accept me, etc., etc. Guess what? All of those things happen. So, life can. So I reinvented myself away from accountancy. Then I got into business development. So then I came back as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, as a publisher. When I was offered the job as a publisher, frankly, they offered me, Richard Branson used to say this thing that if you really are passionate about something and you would love to do it, jump out of the plane first and make the parachute on the way down. So when I became the CEO and publisher of the Times and Sunday Times, I was making my parachute on the way down. And guess what? It was quite successful. And in a funny kind of a way, it is quite good that you are learning from first principles. And I will talk a lot about first principles learning and thinking today. So you actually end up doing rather better. So you use all of your knowledge, and then you have a new learning and a new business that you want to grow in, and you actually start excelling. So this is a little bit just to give you a flavor of who I am as a person.
Amazing, TARIQ.
Really
it's awesome. It's really so relatable, and what you shared. I mean, and for many of our members here, they may not know. I mean, who's a futurist? So maybe you want to start with that, because many of them may not understand. Okay, what is it? Is it an astrologer, or is it someone who does something different? Oh, yeah. So what do you have to say?
On a TV interview, I was asked exactly that question. So can you read my palm? Can you do? I'm not that kind of a futurist. Some people tease me and said, when you can't do anything else, you talk about the future because nobody's been there, so they have to believe you. But that's on the funny side. A futurist basically is a person who is able to look at all of the trends and the models that are shaping in the future, because this is for me to connect the dots and bring them back to today and make it relatable to you and relevant to you as of today. That's what a futurist does. We are not forecasters. We are not scenario planners. But what we are is being able to understand the business and bring it back into today's language. And a lot of what I'll be talking about today is going to be that. Now, as a futurist, one of the critical attributes that I have, which all of us should have, is to be extremely curious, to keep asking questions. The second big thing, the big superpower that I have developed is the power of listening. Listening with my eyes, listening and with my heart, listening with my environment, listening through data, and a lot of very, very high quality listening. And the third one is storytelling. Futurists are storytellers. We need to be able to share something that we cannot hold and then be able to translate it into a story that is meaningful and bring it back to your businesses, your home, your life, your learning, and basically bring all of those key elements together. It's a long answer, but I hope it makes you understand and gives you a flavor. I think what you should do is, towards the end of this, ask your audience the same question. Now, do they understand what a futurist is? Perhaps that would be a bit better.
Absolutely. So, Tariq, what have you planned for us for this evening? Like, what is the theme that you have in mind?
The theme is actually, I call it learning from the future, because I feel that the future has already happened. It's just unevenly distributed. So that's the one message to remember clearly in your head. The second thing is that the future has become more of a mindset. It's actually more than just things happening. That's not just being part of the future. The future is a shift of mindset, how we do that. So today, my job with you is to find a way to shift your mindset. And I think that is something very important. Another key area that I want to talk about is how we need to be able to see things that are happening around us and how we make sense of them. I think that's a critical thing. I will have a few examples in there, and that's the first half of the presentation and conversation. The second half is to very much personalize it into your personal development, because all of you are into learning and development. All of you are into being entrepreneurs and so on. So you need to understand yourself and then be able to transform yourself from there. So the second half of that, and then in the Q&A, many things will come in from that. But the theme today is really about conscious leadership. It's about humanity. It's about being human in a digital age. And it's about having tools and methods. And literally, I have giveaways at the end. Like, I mean, Sidz gives you a lot of gifts every time. I'm hoping to contribute in some way to the gifts in that way also. So that's sort of how I'd like to shape the conversation today.
Fantastic,
and have a bit of fun. There's a lot of laughing and there's a lot of silly things and silly videos and stuff like that. So you'll have a little bit of that too.
Great, Tariq. Thank you for that. And yeah, what I'll do is I can pass it on to you. If you want to share your screen, we can dive straight into it. And all of you here,
with your permission, I would love to share the screen. And so just to give you a visual, it's important to, just a second. And I'll introduce myself with a 40-second video with your permission, and it'll also be a good sound check.
Yes, absolutely.
They were designed for the 20th century and set up in the 20th century. So the 20th century companies are coming down and the 21st century's companies are going up.
To celebrate innovation, to celebrate research and development, to actually bring ideas and investments together.
We can solve the big challenges of the world. We can talk about poverty, healthcare, education, climate. AI can also help our businesses, our apps. It facilitates.
So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit about my, just for you to get a visual that I am, you know, I do a lot of serious work, but I am also I would like to have fun, and I would like you to enjoy yourself also. In the meantime, just like learning from Sid, any comments and any thoughts you have, and I will, I'm alert enough to be able to pick up some of those points as you are sending it in the chat. So leading from the future and building growth and scale is one of the core themes for today. I'm sure you are familiar with this gentleman, Marshall Goldsmith. He's one of my gurus also. And I'd like to start with this, that what got you here won't get you there. Your accountant degree, your law degree, your finance degree got you to this point. Ladies and gentlemen, the ladder is broken. The bridge has collapsed. We have to think differently. So this entire learning and development exercise that you're doing with Sid, and he is empowering you. He is building that ladder. He is building that bridge for you. Without that, there is no real future, and you are going to constantly struggle. So this is an anchor for today. Another anchor for today is that trust is the single most important thing in the world, no matter which industry you're in. And as you look into the future, it's all about trust. Trust has always been important, but now it's come at a premium. We can't travel without trust. We can't go here and there without trust. We can't do a financial transaction without trust. We have to trust our platforms, otherwise things collapse. Trust is the critical glue that we have as far as the future is concerned. A close friend of trust, a brother and a sister, is truth and ethics. Guys, we don't even know what truth is today in the world, because with deep fakes and all of those kinds of things going on, we don't even get an idea of what truth really is. So we need to have critical thinking to be able to decipher between in the bubbles that we are, in the social media bubbles that somehow we are living in. And without ethics, again, there is no future, because AI without ethics is one of the most dangerous things in the world. Robotics without ethics and so whatever thing we put inside our AI and machines and so on is effectively going to affect our future. And ethics is the source and the core for it. And last but not the least is empathy, the human connection, the compassion, the love, and connection with people. Without empathy, there are no relationships, there is no love, there is no connection. And our core values, guys, as we go into the future, we need to become more and more human rather than more technological. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I think is really one of the critical things that we will learn today. So if I end my presentation here, it would be enough, because this is the critical slide for today. And if we remember these elements, I think we have made a real learning for today. Now let's get a little bit faster. First 24 months of COVID, we just recognizing that we did our recovery, we survived, we are resilient. Now we're into the second phase, which I call the phase of resourcefulness, collaboration, and innovation. This is a very interesting phase. It's not about resources, this is about resourcefulness and how creative you are with it, what you can do with what you actually have. And Sid's work actually enables you to be resourceful with your talent and your potential. And if you invite me here 12, 18 months from now, I'll talk about radical reinvention and disruptive innovation, and what I call adaptive radiation, how to adapt and grow and expand. This is our scenario. This is what a futurist does. What a futurist was never going to be able to get is this particular slide, that what used to happen in decades, COVID accelerated and made it happen in months and sometimes in weeks. Every industry, e-commerce, online entertainment, telemedicine, whatever you talk about in our business that we're looking at is remote learning, remote working. Every single thing happened, and the human beings, us, we are at the center. We have to lubricate it. We have to connect it. We have to humanize this. Otherwise, Amazon is going to run away and do crazy stuff as it's been doing, and so are various others. Let me have a bit of fun. Here's Easter Day Parade. 1904, and what do you see? You see a lot of horse-driven carts, horse buggies. I mean, in our part of the world, we call them tangas. They're little tangas there, okay? So you go to the tanga driver there and ask him what would he like to improve his business. By the way, do you see any cars there? Well, actually, there are two here. Okay, but if you go to the horse guy and the tanga guy and ask him what's he going to do to improve his business, what do you think he's going to say? He's probably going to say faster horses, because he doesn't even anticipate what's coming. Fast forward 13 years, not a single horse. So the point is that at this point in time, we have to ask ourselves the right questions rather than constantly just trying to iterate and improve of where we are. Where we are today is already too late. We need to anticipate what's going on because that's what's happening. Then we're already moving to the next stage, and this is going to be mobility in our lifestyle with solar panels, where actually our relationship with our cars is going to be different. The place we live, we place we work, the place we get from point A to B, and it's fundamentally going to change. And this is within this particular decade, all of these things are actually going to happen. Then move forward from there. Our relationship with our cars are going to change because cars will start collecting data. So rather than being 10% being used and 90% out in a garage, that 90%, they will actually become assets for us. And the big data stuff that is going on around the world will enable us. So our relationship with our car will change. Billions of dollars are being invested in drones and flying taxis and fly car companies. Now, if you're in this phase of the game, you're not thinking flying cars. Well, actually, folks, this is a flying car. So what I'm saying is from horse and cart to a flying car has been thing, and we move forward. We are creating new business models coming in. Hyperloop will shorten distance and time. China is building 57-story buildings in 19 days using a lot of the technologies and so on. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is at every single stage, we have to be able to engage and ask questions, be curious, see the iteration, read the tea leaves, understand, and listen. Actually have to listen all the way. So every single industry is being disrupted. Nobody is immune to crazy, but guess what? COVID came in and smashed it up, and that's changing again. Now, these are here are companies that went extinct in our lifetime. So at the bottom, can you guys put in the kind of I'll just give you an example of one of these, and that's Kodak. And if you think of Kodak, what business do you think Kodak was in? So if you could put your comment, what business do you think Kodak was in? And I'll sort of read a few. So because we have photography, cameras, camera assets, photos, wrong. Cameras and film, wrong. Cameras, wrong. They're not. They were not in that business, guys. This is precisely the mistake they made. They thought they were in the business of products and service. They were not. They were in the business of creating memories. Somebody mentioned that. They were in the business of memories and moments. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the utility that they provided people, memories and moments. And they forgot that. They were arrogant, they were big, they were huge, and they didn't move, and they forgot all of it. Yes, and who replaced Kodak in 2012 when Kodak went under and went into Chapter 11? Any ideas? Who changed it? Who understood the digital revolution? Who understood memories and moments and was sharing those memories and moments? Any idea? Go for it. Wrong. Facebook, wrong. Polaroid, wrong. Mobile phones, sort of. Keep going, keep going. You're still not thinking, what is the utility of taking a photograph? Who is exchanging photographs and which company replaced them? Now, obviously others have come in. Actually, I'm so surprised you guys have missed it. Instagram. Instagram came in and they understood that all we have to do is exchange memories and moments. But now the business model had changed. And when the business model changes, ladies and gentlemen, the whole game changes because digital photography became free. So the marginal cost of the additional picture was actually for free. So this is what happens to a graph when a new industry comes in. And then, because we always, everybody said photographs and cameras and film. It wasn't. It was actually memories. So the marginal cost becomes zero. The domain explodes because now we have thousands and thousands of pictures. And the problem changes. What's the new problem now? The new problem is we have too many pictures and we need a bloody app to actually find our pictures. So actually the problem has changed rather than what we had before. So the Darwinian dilemma is we have to either adapt to these new things and or die. And in the spirit of Don't Look Up, the blockbuster movie, The meteor is coming, and these dinosaurs, and these dinosaurs are the companies like Kodak are looking at. And what is happening is that 75% of the companies that were created in the 20th century are coming down. And the companies that are going up, 50% haven't even been born today. And all of this thing is going to happen within this decade. So more than, there will be more development and growth over the next 10 years than in the previous 2,000 years. That's the rate of change. So, and why are 75% of the traditional companies actually coming down? They're coming down because they were built around control. They were built around risk management. They were built around asset management, and they were built around efficiency. 21st century companies are built around ecosystems, around platforms, around managing risk, around sharing, and basically taking risk. And that's the difference. So if you're a 20th century thinking company, it's very difficult for you to survive in the current revolution. And this is another important slide, which is about being a transformation decade. Now, exponential technologies, you guys are smart, you already know about that, but they are now intersecting and accelerating. And I'll share something called a Gutenberg moment, another learning for today. Gutenberg in 1454 invented the printing press, and everything changed. Everything changed. Religion changed, commerce changed, education changed, because now you could print stuff. So the whole world changed because of one invention. Ladies and gentlemen, today there are about 20 Gutenberg moments happening simultaneously, and they are reaching inflection points, and then they are converging, and then they're accelerating, and then creating new things. You know, the flying drone, the flying taxi that I showed you has around 10 of these Gutenberg moment type technologies. LiDAR technology, material sciences are in there. They have mobility, new mobility issues. Robotics are in there. Nanotech is in there. All of these technologies are coming together and creating a flying car. Alone by itself, it couldn't do it. So effectively, what we need to look at it, that these technologies in our lives are imminent, and all of them are going to fundamentally change the game again and again and again. So we need to be, quite agile. This young man, his name is Adam. He's now 11. He was 9 then. He's like a reverse mentor. We are mutually mentoring sometimes and so on. It's and we're creating youth boards, because now we need the curiosity of the young mind to also be an integral part with the wisdom of the older people. We need both sides, and we need that polarity to be able to pull this thing together. When this young man is is now 11, when he's 17, by that time, computing will be 21 times better. Digital sensors, drones will be 665 times better in the next 6 to 7 years. Can you imagine? We are not living this at this speed, but this is the speed. So we are linear thinkers. We think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you do exponential thinking, it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024. So in 8 years, we are at 1024 versus 8. So if you grow at 10% a year, you'll grow it up to 80%. But if you go 10 doublings, you will be at 1,000% more than you are today. So guys, we are living in the world of absolute abundance. And one of the values that Sidz spoke about was abundance, and that's clearly it. The thing that you need to be aware of is our immune system, our corporate immune system and our personal immune system. And this thing is what blocks us. Unfeasible new ideas, client, everything is we don't have an experience, therefore we can't do it. Basically, guys, every single company and every single individual has that. Now, the immune system antibodies are actually good for us to protect us from bad things. But it also blocks good things coming through. So let me give you an example. If you were doing a kidney replacement, the first thing that we do in terms of is for the doctor to give us immunosuppressants, so to lower our antibodies, and only then we can actually move forward and put the kidney in and it be an acceptance. What Sidz does in his training with you is giving you those immunosuppressants, is making you understand things, is making you, and that is lowering your antibodies. And that gives you the opportunity to grow and to increase and start on his program and create new things there. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, none of these things existed. If we knew then what we know today, look where we would have been with these companies. We are now creating the next 20 big mega companies that are coming up. That is what a futurist does. Now, when things happen, they come and hit us from unexpected places, and usually if you don't have peripheral vision, then we are stuck. I'm actually leaving it up there for a second because I want you guys to feel the pain, because when change happens, this is how it comes and hits you from nowhere. So if you're looking straight, you're actually looking in the wrong direction. So at this time, guys, do you feel fear or do you feel hope? So I'd like you to put some comments in there, whether you feel fear or you feel hope. And while you're putting those comments in there, let me share a funny video that's about to do. It's a grandmother in a Tesla car for the very, very first time. And all she was asked to do, was not to hold the steering wheel. That's it. And see what happens to her. Here we go. Have a bit of fun.
Scary. Oh, there's cars coming. Oh, there's cars. Bill, this put me back for me control it. Oh dear, I could never. Oh, where's it going? Oh, this is so scary. I couldn't do it. Oh, is the car coming? They're going to hit us. Oh,
so it's a little funny, but it's true, because all that's happened is she's losing control, and she has lost control. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, is what's happening to our lives. We're losing control of the things that are happening around us. So as we look into the future, we need to be able to learn new things and look at the past. The past is like your rear view mirror, only about 5 to 10% of the time when you're accelerating, slowing down, or changing direction. Otherwise, folks, look forward. There's a huge new opportunity out there, and it's a mindset, as we talk about. Now, I wanted to have a little bit more fun. I'll go a little bit faster with your permission, because I'd like to cover a lot of things. But now you've got the anchors of the dynamics of the future. But what is happening is that the definition of exponential is that the acceleration is actually accelerating. So everything is going faster and faster and faster. But what it's doing is creating abundance. So whether we're talking about computation, time, capital, technology, communication, any of the areas that we are looking at is actually accelerating in a way that is becoming completely ubiquitous and creating total abundance. Communication should be by definition free. Lifespan, we're looking at living, and I'll show you how that actually works, to 150, 200, or even longer than that. Life will be a decision that we make, and so on. So basically what it is doing is we're getting faster and faster, and we need to learn from this particular speed. Aging, 100 will be the new 60, 200 will be the new 80. And if you live to about 80, you probably live even longer. Children are going to be living, grandchildren are going to be living to about 150, and our great-grandchildren will be living to beyond that. And basically all that's happening is that we are gathering so much data. That data about our lives is going to enable us to prevent. And in that environment, we can also, I'll just go back for a sec. In that environment, think of aging is going to be something that most people will consider a disease. And they'll say, guys, you haven't taken the pill. Why haven't you taken the anti-aging pill? Because by definition, if you look at the DNA at a CRISPR level, at a genetic level, we are able to address that, and we potentially wouldn't get old. This is close to your heart. Augmentation in terms of AI will increase and enhance the education systems, and billions of hours of productivity will come in. And you as coaches will be able to deliver coaching all over the world and become mentors and so on. And we can bring back from a holographic form, we can bring back Gandhi, we can bring back or have people like Mandela actually becoming our coach, because we'd be able to capture that. So suddenly you're not bound by your boundaries of countries. You can actually be much, much beyond that. We'll have connectivity around the globe. That will be huge. Millions of satellites are going up, providing us even more connectivity. 4 billion new minds are going to be joining the internet and the our global network that is out there. And what this thing is going to do is create the new geniuses. The new Einsteins will come from India, from Africa, from parts of Latin America, and so on. That is where they're going to come in. IoT is going to come in and connect everything and enhance and create new value and new opportunities. I'm going fast on this because you need to understand this is really the speed at which we're going. So every single thing that we valued in the 20th century has gone upside down. We used to value assets and physical stuff. Now we value information-based products. So as we look forward, there are so many new business models coming up: a transformation economy, multiple worlds model, because we're looking at going beyond Earth. We're looking at platform economies. We're looking at decentralized autonomous organizations. Sidz Tribe is actually the makings of what is called a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO. And in the Q&A, we can address that a little bit. We're looking at Web 3.0. It's just when we were starting to get too worried about Facebook and so on, maybe we have to be less worried if Web 3.0 comes in. Now, with all of these things, 54% of the companies are not ready for this, and only about 8 to 10% of the companies have digitized enough. This is a massive opportunity for you guys, not only locally, but internationally, because companies and individuals are not happy. So as we look forward, we look at new leadership, new mindsets, a new world, and new solutions. I've been speaking for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. I'll stop here for a second. Sid, I'll reconnect with you. So I've thrown a few ideas up there, from the speed of change, the abundance of opportunities, the exponential dynamics, and so on. I mean, it'd be nice to engage with the audience for about 5 minutes or so and get their feedback and so on, and your feedback.
TARIQ, I mean, this is mind-blowing in the way that you've integrated all those elements. It's amazing, you know, even the examples and analogies that you've given. So I have one question, TARIQ. Like you mentioned about, you know, like technology is exponential, but as humans, we think linear. So how do we deal with that? I mean, honestly, I mean, because sometimes it may seem so overwhelming. There's so much happening. We have this fear of missing out, not sure what to do. So what's the advice that you would give for us? Yeah.
I think it's a very valid question, and it's the question everybody asks. We cannot, as human beings, run as fast as technology. So if we try to compete with technology, we will lose. Well, end of discussion. However, if we become more human and take our human attributes and apply those, and technology becomes subservient to us, we are absolutely fine. So anything and everything that can be digitized will be, because it'll be 1,000 times faster and 1,000 times cheaper. But anything and everything that cannot be digitized, like love, harmony, compassion, critical thinking, common sense, you know, spirit, philosophy, soul, all of these things, and build our businesses and our passion points around these human attributes, that's the way to ride the future. So if our moral compass is in the right place and we are able to manage the AIs and stuff that are coming in, then that is how we will succeed. So the technology should be subservient to us. A friend of mine, she's a horse show jumping champion, and when she heard this presentation, she said, "Oh my God, now I understand." Because she said, "Well, my horse is 50 times stronger and 10 times bigger than me, but I give it a bit of love and I ride it and I control it and I tap it and it jumps." That is how we need to work and think about technology. Just tap it and it works for you. But our humanity and our skills and our special touch, our senses, is what's critical. That is how we can live in an exponential world.
Amazing, TARIQ. That's a very, very interesting perspective. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. So what we're now doing is looking at a new mindset, new leadership structure, and a new world, and new solutions. So as we look at that, and a new set of thinking. This guy, most people recognize him. His name is Jack Ma. He's creating the world's largest financial institution. It's called Ant Financial. And he's applying a completely first principles thinking to be able to deliver that. And it's not even a bank. It's a hybrid super app. So how can you become the world's biggest financial institution and you're not even a bank? And he completely changed that. And the way he changed that is disrupted a saving model in China. China jumped and leapfrogged from being a cash-based society into a mobile society with very little in between, while we were struggling with our regulators and our banks and old systems and so on. This is called Yue Bao. Yue Bao is, in Chinese, means hidden treasures. And basically, most people are receiving their salaries or their payments and stuff like that on their mobiles. So at the end of each month, $10, $20, $50 are left over in your account. Now, if you want to open a bank account, you have to do KYC. By the way, do you know what KYC means? Most banks say it's know your customer. I actually disagree. I think KYC, the way the banks do it at the moment, is kill your customer with paperwork. Kill your customer with duplicates of this, that, and the other. These guys were doing instant onboarding with using QR codes and so on. One tick and dollars away. Guess what? Is what became the world's largest money market fund of around $400 billion. This is a few months old. $400 billion. And the next largest fund in the world is JP Morgan Chase at $135 billion. It's a US Treasury bond fund. So what he did basically is fundamentally took a savings model and he thought through that and went back to first principles, say, what do people want to do and how can they improve on that? This is the kind of customer. By the way, he's doing a lot of work and acquisitions and stuff in India to build the volume to get billions and billions of customers. Elon Musk is, again, a completely different thinker. He is dominating up to 8 industries at the moment, and 3 or 4 of them very significantly. By the way, guys, he is not an expert in any one of them. He's not an expert in solar. He's not an expert in cars. He's not an expert in space. He is not an expert. So therefore, expertise is yes, you need to have knowledge and you need to do that. But what he does is asks questions, builds platforms, thinks through the process, and has the courage and the ability that something that the human ingenuity coming together in a platform environment will help to change the world. And in the process, he also gets rich. Now, when he started Hyperloop about 7, 8 years ago, do you think he knew where he was going to go with it? Or when he started Tesla? Then what he did was he open sourced it. Everybody got involved. Everybody started engaging and contributing. And that is how they accelerate. This is the new way of working. And this is how things come together. Now, this study was done by Oracle. Actually, a lot of the respondents were from India, and about 3 years ago, that 64% of the people trust a robot more than they trust their managers. You know, shame on us as managers. And by the way, this figure has grown since, particularly during COVID. So, and the youth demographic that you came up with, by the way, they are more responsible for this number, because when you look at another way, people in India and China would rather buy a car from a technology company than an automobile company. They would rather work with a finance app or a technology-based background like an Amazon or whatever fintech kind of company than a bank. They don't trust banks. In the United States, only 28% of the people trust banks to be fair and honest with their money. Only 28%. Shame on them, guys. I mean, we're putting our money there, but we didn't have an alternative system, and that is why this was happening. So, what does happen to leadership both on a personal level and an organizational level? Some of the things you see, they're visible, and we can work on that very specifically. But Sid is doing a lot of work, and I've listened to some of his videos and so on the invisible stuff. The thoughts and the emotions, the relationship and the culture, the humanity and philosophy, the spirituality and connection with nature, with God, with humanity, with sustainability. Those are invisibles, guys. And those are the things we need to be working on while building yourselves an environment of self-awareness. You can do some kind of profiling and psychometric testing and analysis, build your personal purpose using Ikigai. I'm a trained trainer on that too. I did some of it just literally yesterday. Building your own personal purpose and then making sure that you work with humanity and authenticity. This is your journey. You as entrepreneurs, you as people who are looking to reinvent yourself, you have to reinvent yourself in this kind of flow and this kind of journey. So basically, some of you are techies in India. Technology is so huge. So if you look and use that jargon. The application part of yourself and your life is about taking actions and making decisions and building skills. But the operating system that you have are your values, principles, beliefs, and emotions. This is how we have to see ourselves. And 6th, 7th, just like an iceberg of who we are, is in our operating system. It's internal, and this is what I'm going to be addressing. What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, is that the final frontier left is our human brain and creativity, and our heart and our emotions and our feelings. And we can augment this. We can make it longer. We can have exponential thinking and creativity. We can create abundance and opportunities. Folks, this is the final frontier, and this is what learning, and that's why the profession that you're working on and the space that you're working on is so critical. Now, I'll share a funny story here. This is a study that was done at NASA 20, 30 years ago that is valid even to this day. And what they were doing was measuring creativity versus age. And so let's just see exactly what happens. Here's a cute little girl, 3, 4 years of age. Do you think her creativity is high, medium, or very high? Just put it in the chat. Is it high or very high? Well, very, very high. Absolutely right. Thank you very much. It's at 95%. And so wherever in the world I've done this, and I've done this hundreds of times, it's at 95%. And guess what? We send them to school. What happens to the creativity? Boom, down to 50%. Then we work really, really, really hard and then send them to college. And whoops, it goes down to 25%. And then where are we? We, ladies and gentlemen, are at a handsome 10%. We were born creative geniuses and we dumbed ourselves down. We used the education system, habit, repetitiveness, fear of failure, culture, environments that's holding us back in terms of just going and getting grades and so on, rather than the passion and the pleasure of learning. And guys, we are killing ourselves by killing our creativity. And Sid asked me, what will differentiate us in the future? Creativity is one of the critical things that will differentiate us, because AI is not creative. We are. Technology is dumb. We are smart. Technology only does what we tell it to do. So we need to have all of those things. Therefore, we need to be able to address this. People ask me what kind of new degrees and qualifications, whatever degree of learning that you have, develop yourself, enhance yourself, become an anthropologist or a social scientist or an environmentalist or an ethicist. If you are a finance person and an ethics, if you are an engineer and an anthropology, guys, your job opportunities, your learning opportunities will multiply 10 times, because those combinations don't exist. And those are the combinations that will make us more capable than ever before. Now, we go to university, we only are tested on 2 intelligences, numerical and verbal. That's it. And we can get into MIT and Harvard and so on. But we have around 12 multiple intelligence. We have visual linguistic thing. We have our rhythmic musical connection. We have our spatial intelligence, because we understand things that are around us. Our mathematical, we obviously have covered that. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to go and tap into our human intelligences, whether we can bring it out through meditation or bring it out through a better way of life, but we need to get back to our multiple intelligence if we are to succeed. This particular slide is one of the single most, so if there are 3 or 4 slides to remember, this is one of them. You need a new operating system for these exponential times. It's not which degree you did and when you did it and how you did it. But now the question we have to ask ourselves, and when you're in a job, say, and you're interviewing somebody, say, what's your purpose? Why do you do what you do? What's your inner passion? And the questions around ethics, mindset, empathy, vitality, and flow. If you are not flowing, you will not survive in the future against technology. How I manage my health and energy is a critical thing. My mindsets. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a critical component of how we will lead our future. And the future leadership traits, we need to think like a futurist, think in terms of the way that I'm sharing with you. Innovator, that you already know. Think abundance, never think scarcity, because if you think scarcity, you'll get left behind, because technology is an enabler for abundance, but you are the creator of abundance, not technology. Technology enables, but you create and drive. And you're also going to be a humanitarian. These are some of the new traits. The final area, and then we'll go back into Q&A, and then I'll share a few things. Conscious leadership. The building blocks of conscious leadership is in the Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations. It talks about prosperity, people, partnership, peace, and planet. Now, can you imagine building a leadership environment and structure? I know it's a little soft and fluffy, but I think it's just so important to see it like this, is you do all of that. The business outcomes would be helping the people, improving our planet, giving us purpose in life, and also getting profit for companies and for individuals. These are the building blocks of conscious leadership. Now, these, ladies and gentlemen, are some of this research that was done, all of the wisdom from some of the greatest civilizations. The Maori civilization came up with love. The Mayan civilization from Latin America came concept of ebb, which is the path of connection and human connection, and so on. Ikigai, that I have spoken to you about, is how to define the meaning of your life between what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you get paid for. And you basically bring the nexus of that, and that's the essence of life. That's the center of who you are. Oikos in Greece is about the physical aspect of safety and responsibility and home and property, which gives you protection. And Ubuntu is an African word, South African word for humanity. So these are the key components of future leadership. And these are A-E-I-O-U, the vowels in the English language. This Aroha is for life, and Eb is connecting that life, and Ikigai is finding meaning and reason in that life, and Oikos is protecting your family and home, and Ubuntu is about serving humanity. And you link this in the most whatever kind of way with how we build our relationships and our businesses and how we love. The moment we start doing that, we become more conscious in our leadership, and it is from all over the world. And if you go back to India, you look at a lot of the Vedic works that are done, a lot of the things. My guru, Sanjeev Krishnan, he's from South India, and he's my yoga guru, but he's more than that. He's a healer. He's a master of understanding how human behavior and physiology and elements work. And all of these are the wisdom of the past. Yes, we can chase technology, and I am a technologist also, but we have to learn from the wisdom of all of these things and look at these kinds of environments and walk away from things that are toxic, which are control driven or security driven or approval driven, and you're overwhelmed with your work all the time. You need to be out of the way and taking not responsibility, but radical responsibility, and be an activist in whatever you wish to do, and then you move forward from there. A couple of things more, Sid, and then we go back into the Q&A. I know I'm running a little bit long. I hope your audience.
That's perfectly fine, TARIQ. We are good to go. You don't have to rush. You can go with the flow. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So this thing is something I picked up from Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins speaks about strategy, and he says that strategy represents only 20% of the results that we receive. Think about that. You think we've got a nice strategy and we're done. If you're in a company or you're a CFO or a CEO, you think you've got your strategy, you're done. Actually, what it talks about is to get into state, to prime yourself into that state, get your emotions in place, and get your physiology and focus right. And I'll share something. Once you've done that and you have a belief system in your potential, then you can start getting results. Anybody who's done firewalking, I've done it about 5 times. I'm sure Sidz has done it too. And in that firewalking, what we do is we get ourselves into clarity of state. I remember doing the Unleash the Power Within, the 5-day program, and we had to do the firewalk on the first night. And I was saying, what's wrong with Tony? Why is he doing it the first night? Let's get used to it a little bit more over the next 2 or 3 days. But no, he said, we have to break through on day 1, because if we can walk on fire, we can do anything. It's our mindset. So getting yourself mentally primed is critical. We have just walked on fire, ladies and gentlemen, for the last 24 months. This COVID was a globally inflicted fire, but we walked it and we survived it. And the fact that we are here, now, if we have clarity of mind and focus and purpose, we will go there. So the success cycle in this world is that let's assume all 500 of you have potential. And now we need to see, and the whole thing is you need to believe in that potential. And if you believe in that potential, and then you take action, then you take massive action. You don't take little action, but you take massive action. Sid's constantly talking about to go out there and make a commitment, put yourself on the line and take massive action. When you take massive action, you get good results. When you get good results, it feeds into your belief system that, wow, this thing actually works, which says, I'll fulfill my potential. Imagine the other way around. You have good potential, but you're just trying out little bits and pieces here and there, which is giving you little bits and pieces of results. And therefore you're saying, yeah, well, this digital coaching and stuff like that is too bloody difficult and it's too complicated. I'm too busy and I don't understand it. And I'm too old, bringing all those immune system responses, which we learned earlier on. So we need to change that cycle and basically have absolute basic belief in what we're doing and a belief in our potential. Mechanics are different, whether it's digital coaching or it's learning a new language or doing whatever. Those are key elements in that. Believe in your potential. When you get that, get yourself into state and hit it hard. Take the big action, go out there, make stuff happen, and the results will follow. This, ladies and gentlemen, is another important slide to carry with you. This is the success cycle. This is how the whole thing comes together. A couple of funny ones. I call this the 60-40-20 rule. The 60-year-olds are making decisions for our lives because they're sitting in CEOs and board positions. The 40-somethings are executing, and the 20-somethings are assuming, because we have a young population. So we said we need to have mentoring. If you are a science person, take an art class. If you're an artist, take a coding class. And while you're doing this, we're creating youth boards and doing a lot of work on diversity, equity, inclusion for women. Because what we need is any kind of business community now to become more exponential in their thinking. They need to be diverse in age, gender, ethnicity, background, all sorts of things. So knowledge is only one thing. Diversity has to also come together. Longevity in business is about being able to reinvent yourself or just recreate and reinvent the future. A great quote from Satya, so I thought I'd share it with you. A couple more solutions and ideas. One of them is around how AI and humans come together. We can go back onto this in the Q&A, but I'll just throw it out there. And what we do is we overlay jobs of the future. You know that through AI, we're losing about 80 million jobs over the next 2 to 3 years. Guess how many jobs that are being created? 130 million in the same time period. 10 years ago, there wasn't a single social media manager today. Today, there are 55 million people working in the social media industry globally. You asked, what is a futurist? 10 years ago, futurist was a crazy guy who was just sitting on a mountain. Today, it's part of day-to-day life. So new jobs are being created. Here's another rule that I use called the 70-20-10 golden rule of the Google. 70% of the time you spend on your core business, focusing on what you want to deliver. 20% of your time on edge, which is extending your business, and 10% of the time in terms of blue sky thinking. And again, we can go back in the Q&A. And when I go into companies, this is one of the recommendations I have is create a future planning unit, which is around 20% of your time, your resources, because that will build the future. It'll have a different culture and so on. Anyway, we can keep going on, but what truly matters, ladies and gentlemen, and concluding, is that it is about friends and family. It's about serving God. It's about developing our potential. It's about working our team, fulfilling our calling, guys, and pursuing meaning and virtue, making this world a better place. This is who we are as humanity. This is our natural flow. This is the natural space that we are in. And this is what truly matters. And you are in such an amazing place with such a great teacher that you have with you. You're extremely blessed and fortunate to have that. And I'm really grateful that you gave me this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, TARIQ. And this is such a validation what you shared. Like what we are doing here is we are not just trying to sell product, but we are building communities. So, and when you have communities, we need to have that element of love. We need to have those other elements, which are the invisible factors that you mentioned. And I think this as a business model itself, where we are constantly learning, we are implementing, we are teaching, we are not just selling, but we are also building tribes or digital tribes. And it's, I mean, whatever you shared is such a amazing validation to what we are doing here. And with this, I mean, I really feel now that this is going to make a difference, and a lot of leaders are going to come out from here with this thought process and not get, not get just allured by the technology, but having the moral ethics, values, and these things as the foundation to the fast changing world. So thank you for sharing that, Tariq. In fact, I want to ask you, I mean, the question that I had is, you're having conversations with board members of these Fortune 500 companies and these big, decision makers who are probably in their 60s, 70s. What kind of interactions and conversations happen at that level when they are looking at these fast changing times? Because some of the big decisions happen from there. So I'm just curious to know, what have your interactions with them been like?
Yeah, substantially very disappointing.
Okay.
Substantially and predominantly, they are still hanging on to the past. And the few that are looking into the future are doing fine. They feel that by making 5-10% adjustments here and there, creating a little digital unit or creating some bits and pieces there, they will be fine. The answer is absolutely not. I came this afternoon from Oman, where I'm advising a public listed company there. They have a board of 7 people and the chairman. All are over the age of 50, and half of them are over the age of 60. 5 of them are accountants. So I said to the chairman, I said, guys, dude, what's this? I mean, there's no diversity, no youth, no connection with technology. So he's engaging me to give him a transformation environment. So, but it took some time for them took them several months. But and that is the nature of most of the boards that we're coming in with. I think a lot of them just focus on things like governance and risk management and just control, which is a very 20th century thing. A lot of them need to come to the 21st century. So I would say less than 20% of the boards are future oriented sufficiently to be able, and that's why the 75% of the companies are going to disappear, because the meteor is going to come and hit them. And everybody thinks because you're big, it's not going to happen to you. Guess what? It's happening. Retail has disappeared because the big guy, the little guys who became the big guys, like Amazon came and killed them, and Netflix killed everybody, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going is that, the answer is that the boards are not ready. They are sort of getting there. Now I'm going to blow up the strategy consulting firms like KPMG and PricewaterhouseCoopers and so on. They are not doing a service to the boards properly, because the boards are now a little bit scared. So what they end up doing is giving them the big fat deck presentation with their big fat tupper on it, and they feel, and the CEO is suddenly happy that they've got themselves a program. Wrong. 75% of transformations fail, and they don't fail because the technology or the recommendation isn't good. It's because the culture hasn't been addressed, the people haven't been trained, the transition hasn't happened, and the immune system hasn't gone down. And none of the strategy consulting firms do that. So the CEOs and the chairman are looking for an insurance policy. That's why they go to the big boys. So this is the opportunity for other people to come in and sort of say, maybe we can look at these things in a better way. So I think the boards need to really transform themselves, otherwise they will be out of the game.
Wow. That was a bulb on. All if you can just type bulb on in the comment box. And now let's come to this side of the spectrum, which is the children and the kids. And the demographic of my audience are, most of them are parents, 30, 40, 50, in that age group. A lot of parents in the room here. I mean, even I'm a father of 2 boys, and I want to know your perspective on like, what should we be thinking for the next gen in terms of, should we put them in college, school? Is that even required? I mean, any thoughts on that and the discussion that you've been having with the people in the education space? Yes,
I've done a lot of discussion in the education space, and we used to constantly bash governments and the regulators and the people like that, and we are right to bash them because they've completely screwed the education system, destroyed it in the sense they haven't kept pace with what's the changes that are happening. You know who the other big culprits are? And Indian families and Indian parents are right in the front line. It's them. Yes. It's the parents. The parents want their kid to go to Harvard. You started my introduction by saying he's a Harvard alumni. Okay? So we give it value and we give it positioning. So that's okay. So basically, it doesn't matter what kind of alternative learning and homeschooling, but if you haven't been to Harvard or Oxford or this or IIT or something like that, you haven't quite achieved. So I think it's a complex response. I think what we really need to do is learning has to be both, it has to become a new hybrid. We need the schooling, which is the basic education part, and we need a lot of others, which is what I call the learning part. And that hybrid learning needs to start coming together. Schooling is to learn a lot of things, which is in a more practical, methodical manner. And the learning part is where you have your exponential learning. And that exponential learning, that children need to maintain that their sense of awe and excitement. They need to have their work on projects which taps into their empathy, work on projects which gives them the opportunity to find their passion. And when I earlier on spoke about living longer and having longevity of life and living 200 years, on the one side, it could be marriage, for example. I mean, marriage was created 10,000 years ago because, we had to keep communities together. So you got married at 16, 18 years of age, had 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, and you died by the time you're 30, and half your kids were dead anyway. So life was easy and uncomplicated. Then we lived to 48 and 68, and today the age is around 78. Now, so if you get married on average, let's say 28, and you die at 78, so you have 50 years of marriage, which is nice and happy for most of the people. However, now you're living 270 years of age, and you're married for 250 years. What's going to happen to life? What's going to happen to marriage? The whole essence of marriage is going to change. My father had only 2 jobs in his life. I've had 5 careers. That's the shift. And our children will actually not really be looking at careers, they'll be looking at gigs, they will be looking at doing different types of things. So the future of work is a huge space that we really, really need to be addressing and need to be looking at. So answering the question for the parents, do they need to go to school? Yes, but they need to have hybrid learning and a lot of learning around their passions and give them space to think. Don't drown them with homework, don't drown them with stuff, and give them the ability to keep learning. The other side of education is learning for parents, us, because we need, and that's why I have people like Adam and others as my youth mentors, my reverse mentors, because I need to remain young in my thinking and curious and innocent and go back to first principles in my thinking. So that's sort of what my advice would be. And yes, there will be colleges in the future. By the way, my view of the future is, put it forward 10 years from now, I think there'll be about between 20 to 50 big brands left, the Harvards, the Stanfords, and so on. And the rest will be very, very distributed education. So the learning space that you are in is absolutely spot on, because that's where the future is. I mean, you talk about a $350 billion marketplace. I actually think it's closer to a $10 trillion marketplace in 10 to 20 years.
Wow, amazing. So guys, we got that validation from a Futurist. So TARIQ, now, with what's happening with Facebook, Meta, and, that's a big hot
Facebook,
word everywhere.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, how do you see that changing the face of how we live our life? Because now we are, in fact, if we rewind 15 years and what we're living right now, it's like we are in the future now. So what do you see, where do you see things going, like even 10, 20 years from now, with this whole concept of the metaverse and everything moving there and being in the virtual worlds? And I'm already seeing my kids are in Roblox and they are building worlds already over there. What are your thoughts on that, on Facebook, Meta, and what all's happening now?
I think building new things and new concepts and so on is a natural flow of life. And I think we always get worried about progress until we get there, and it's fine. I think the big problem are people like Facebook, because they have too much power. They have too much influence. They have too much control. Social media has become a manipulation engine, and it's manipulating our serotonin and our dopamine parts of our brain. It's also become a fear engine. It goes back to our brain. It's called the amygdala, and it hits that in constant fear. So the way they are looking at things is that if you go into a restaurant and people are eating, it's not news. But if 2 people are fighting, then it's news. So what they need to do is to create that kind of attack and that kind of engagement, and that becomes clickbait. Now, you know all of these things. My thing is, as far as the metaverse is concerned, it is very, very early days. It needs to be done responsibly. It's a really, really evolving space, and I think our companies will go into the metaverse. We will spend a lot of time there. We'll have our avatars there. So it's going to be an integral part of our lives, just like social media is an integral part of our lives. But again, I'm going back to basics, which is our humanity and all the basics. As long as we retain all of those things, just like from 10, 15 years ago to today, social media has become a part of life. 15 years from now, the metaverse will be a part of our life, but we'll still go back to our humanity, because that's where the real world is going to be.
Amazing. Thank you, TARIQ. And I actually have your profile that you had actually given me. I just want to give it to our group over here so they can connect with you on all the different places. I've just put it up on Google Drive. So all of you can just download. If you want to connect with TARIQ, follow him, because there's a lot of information that he's sharing. And TARIQ, what is your vision, personally? Like, you want to impact 1 billion lives. I saw that. So can you tell us more about that? Like how we can help you on your, on your vision, and how we can collaborate on that?
Thank you. I had a tombstone exercise that I did 20 years ago, and I was asked, if I had only 7 days to live, what would I do with my life? And that was very difficult to answer. Then I was asked to write something in the year 2050, which was very easy for me to answer. This was at 1999, 2000. And then they said, what is your legacy? What do you put on your tombstone? And that's what I put thing. And that's why I have put my company as MAD. MAD stands to Make a Difference. And the social platform that we're creating would reach 1 billion people through learning. And learning is our core. And I was doing it with Professor Tony Buzan. I'm saddened to say that I found so much resistance, even though I was doing good from existing charities and so on. Because one of the things I wanted to change was that we shouldn't be charging money. So if you give me 100 rupees, I give the kid 100 rupees, not 80 rupees or 70 rupees. It has to be 100, because you have given that money to me in trust. It's amanat. That's the thing. So I was trying to change that. I was saying we should be a pass-through. And we should be imaginative enough in terms of our business models to earn in a different way, not from your contribution. And that was the philosophy I was getting stuck regularly. So I spent a lot of money and time and investment in my personal savings and so on. So I've had to slow that down a little bit to build up my business platform, then to reintegrate back into it. And when I do, you'll be the first one I will come to properly. I'm doing bits and pieces on the side, but not the comprehensive trajectory I was on for 1 billion people 7, 8 years ago. And I'm sad that I'm not on that trajectory at the moment. But I think what has happened in the last 7, 8 years, again, because of exponential change, so many payment mechanisms, so much more mobility and so on, micro donations, simple stuff. That is what we are going to put together, and our platforms are going to be hopefully connected with yours. And 10 rupees a person, but before you know, you've started changing the world.
Absolutely, we're always there, TARIQ, and we're a community of givers, and everyone gives to give charity to whichever charities that they believe in. And we've been able to document some good amounts of charity that's going out every single month from all our members. So it's become a part of the culture, which is giving. And yeah, let us know if some innovations happen over there, and if there are some areas we can also help in. Amazing, TARIQ. So
the key point I want to make there is on the charity side is the first word I started with is trust. As long as people will trust you, and that is trusting that it is benefiting somebody for the kind of contribution, people have big hearts, but you've got to build that trust. And until that trust and integrity and the values are not there, you don't have a future. So therefore, we go back to the premium amount of trust. So great contribution from people, but if they are not trusting, they'll slow down.
Exactly. Once again, TARIQ, thank you so much for your time. You've been, how many of you here got a lot of value in the last 1 hour from TARIQ? Yes. All of you can share your love and wishes in the comment box. TARIQ, just before we leave and close this, is there any 1 or 2 things, or let's say success principles? I know you've shared a lot of principles, but anything that we should keep at the back of our minds as we step into the future? And I mean, we are already in the future, but as we step forward, many of our members are brand new, they're getting on this journey. So one principle on the top of your mind that can really be the game changer principle from your side?
I think the game changer principle, I showed you the success cycle. I think that is a critically important one. The second message is always see the world through the eyes, through the lens, through the filter of humanity. And that first slide of empathy, trust, humanity, and values, if you do that, you will be more successful in the long term, always. It is the source of life, the source of the law of nature. And, we tend to rush because we are so focused on outcomes and results instantly. But if we just reframe our mind and say, I will always do things through the lens of humanity, you will succeed. So that would be my big recommendation to people, that whatever you do, just work with that, open your heart, go out there, and you're putting a deposit, the energy that you're creating, collective energy of that, and the collective intelligence that you create because of that is the game changer, in my opinion. And that's what gets you the exponential growth.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tariq. That was powerful, and a lot of bulb on moments for all our community members. Also, you can just type bulb on if you had quite a few moments. I mean, that's like a common phrase that we use here in all our webinars. But want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the amazing person that you are, and want to definitely learn more from you in the years to come. Yes, and always there to help you as a tribe.
Always here to serve, and always here to contribute in the best way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
And best of luck. God bless to the tribe, to the community. Guys, the amount of ripples that you're creating, 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, can actually start changing the world. It's the butterfly effect. You start somewhere and the rest can follow from there. Sid,
thank you.
You're a champion, you're a star, so keep doing the great work, and always there for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tariq.
My pleasure.
Really means a lot.